Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 7 times Google Maps saved people's lives. Google Maps and Google Earth are incredibly useful. Most of us probably use them to check out our house from space, or to remember where that great donut shop was. But some people have more useful reasons to use Google Maps, which at times are life-saving. So before we get into it, be sure to subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming in at number 10, we have kidnapping coworker. If you got kidnapped, chances are you'd want Jason Bourne or James Bond to come and rescue you. Well, what about being saved by Google Maps? Well, in 2015, that happened to one British businessman named Sander Cochlear. He was on his way to work one day when a former employee of the company he worked for named John Spence ran up to him with an air gun. Sander thought it was a real gun, so he did what John said and got in John's van. John then took Sander's credit card and locked him to a tree in a nearby woods. He then left Sander and took around £500 from his account. However, he made one big mistake. He left Sander with his cell phone, and Sander was able to use Google Maps to send his location to his boss. His boss and another worker at the company then drove to the location and rescued Sander. The reason John kidnapped Sander was to hold him ransom until their boss paid John £2,000, which his boss apparently owed him. But now he won't be getting that or the $500 he stole from Sander. Instead, he'll be getting 8 years behind bars for what he did. 8 years in prison or £2,000. I wonder which one I'd rather have. Next up, we have Desert Island. You're used to hearing of people getting stranded on a desert island in TV shows and movies, but that stuff never happens in real life, right? Well, a few years back, 3 men became stuck on a desert island. They were totally stranded on there, and none of them were any good at surviving out in the wild. However, they did think fast and decided to gather pieces of wood, stone and leaves from the island. Using those materials, they spelled out the word help in large letters. After a while, their help signal was spotted from Google Earth. A US Navy plane then flew overhead and were able to rescue the men. The men have now given up boating, but the experience turned them into massive fans of the show Gilligan's Island. I don't know why they'd want to watch that when they've literally lived it. Next up is man finds way home after 23 years. Have you ever got lost and been unable to find your home? Perhaps you were young and you got lost for a moment. Or maybe you had one too many drinks on a night out. Well, one man lost his home and found it 23 years later thanks to Google Maps. When Saru was 5 years old in India, he accidentally boarded a runaway train. He was so young that he had no idea how to find his family or where to find his home. In India, there's way less organizations to care for lost kids, so Saru had to live on the street for years until he found a job and got an apartment. During this time, he looked for his family, but because he was so young when he got lost, he'd forgotten their last name and where they lived. However, the one thing he did remember was the village he came from was closed off by 2 bridges. By using Google Maps and Google Earth, he was able to find his hometown. Then after 23 years, he finally found his family. This guy then got his identity back and was able to see his family again. And people say modern technology is pointless. Huh. Next up is Off the Grid. One day, 15-year-old Austin Bohannon went hiking off-trail in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. He then got lost and had no signal on his phone, so he turned it off. He then became lost for 11 days. However, on day 11, he thought he may be able to get a GPS phone signal even if he couldn't get a phone signal. He could, and was able to use Google Maps on his phone to find his way out of the national park. He was taken to a hospital after he found his way out and recovered soon after. But if it weren't for Google Maps, Austin would have been a goner. Next up is Shipwrecked. In 2007, Gemma Sheridan from Liverpool, UK was shipwrecked. She'd been sailing off the coast of Hawaii, but she met some bad weather. When she woke up, she was on a remote desert island and stayed there for 7 years. One day, she decided to carve SOS into the sand in giant letters. Then one day, some kids from Minnesota, USA spotted her cry for help. She was then saved and was able to return to see her family again and return home too. She said she had to learn how to survive out in the wild, but was able to as she was a big fan of survival TV shows. So maybe next time your parents complain about you watching TV all the time, you can tell them this story. Next up, we have nightclub kidnapping. In late 2016, a young woman named Mary Hayes from Manchester, UK had been travelling in Australia. One night, she decided to go clubbing, but when she was outside just about to enter it, she was kidnapped. She saw a man in a car and wanted to help him as he looked injured at first. However, she was tricked and he took her away in his car. However, Mary was luckily able to text her dad who was in the UK at the time. She wrote, "I've been taken by a man, please hurry." She was also able to send her location using Google Maps. Her dad then quickly called the cops who arrested the man and saved Mary. The cops and her dad did help, but really Mary has Google Maps to thank, as she had no idea where the man had taken her. Next up is Missing Man. In 2006, 72-year-old David Niles was leaving a bar in Michigan after meeting up with a friend. After his friend said goodbye to him, David was never seen again. Well, at least not for over a decade. That was until a man named Brian spotted the top of a car in a pond on Google Maps. He then called police and it turned out to be David's car. It appears David had driven into there after meeting his friend over 10 years ago. His family had already given up hope of him being alive, but at least now they can have peace as they know what happened to David. Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the most amazing Google Maps find. And if you want something a little less scary, then check out my second channel. There's some awesome life hacks and DIYs on there, so be sure to click the link on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed, check out some more videos on screen right now, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.